When you say nation, you talk about land. Our land is Africa. That's undeniable. This land is not our land.
That what Frantz Fanon's theory, psychological theory, is that we're in a post-colonial psychology. And what he calls that is an auto-destructional stage, which is the oppressor will oppress for so long that the oppressed no longer have to be physically oppressed. They do it to themselves automatically.
I'm black. Do you hear me, man? Do you understand? I am black. I'm a nigga. You understand me? I was born black, I live black, and I'm gonna die probably because I'm black. Because some cracker that knows I'm black better than you, nigga, is probably gonna put a bullet in the back of my head.
Hey man, it's like this, man. It's like, you know, it's like it's revolution time, man. There's no questions asked. Revolution is here. You know what I'm saying? We the youth, we the young. It's time for us to break loose, you know? We don't have no freedom, no rights, man. We slaves right now. Everybody's still a slave. That's what they told us today. In other words, you still a slave. No matter how much money you got, you still ain't shit. So, you know, it's on, just like that. Just like
are really ready and willing to pay the price that is necessary for freedom. Our people will always be walking around here second-class citizens, or what you call 20th century slaves.
What price are you talking about, sir?
The price of freedom is death.
What's the figure?
I mean, what are you in this for? You want power, you want revenge, you know? What is it?
It's simple, Willie. I just want to be free.
Uhuru, welcome to another episode of Uhuru Mindset. I am Ikemba here with Feist, Empress Livewire, and I'm sure we'll have Whisper and Win joining us very soon. We are members of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, or just MPDUM for short. I want to encourage everybody to visit mpdum.org to find out more about our organization and what it is that we do. I want to acknowledge our leadership, President Columbayi Antoinette, located in St. Louis, Missouri. She is our international president. And I also want to acknowledge Chairman Omali Yeshitela, founder of the African People's Socialist Party, chairman of the entire Uhuru movement and the African Revolution. So once again, welcome everybody to, I think this is our 16th episode of Uhuru Mindset. We're going into season 2 of Uhuru Mindset beginning June 18th, the day before Juneteenth, which is today's topic. So segue. So today's topic is on the holiday, or I guess we can call it a holiday, Juneteenth. We want to sort of examine not just the origins of Juneteenth, but what it really means as it relates to the Black experience here in the United States of America. So, you know, Juneteenth is starting to become more and more recognized by the African American community. You know, people, not even just Black people in general. We say African, so I'm going to use Black and African interchangeably, but this is becoming more and more recognized. So we want to look into like the origin when we talk about Juneteenth, which was once known as Emancipation Day or Jubilee Day, was first recognized, celebrated in 1866. But before I even get into that history, I just want us to even like look at how the origins of Emancipation Days in general, because this wasn't even the first celebration of an Emancipation Day. So we can go back to even 1834, when British colonies emancipated African people the British emancipated African people in their colonies, Trinidad and Tobago being the first country to I guess you could say be emancipated from slavery, but we still recognize colonialism. But I want you all to bear with me just for the sake of this conversation. So in 1834, you had Africans in Ohio who was celebrating, recognizing Emancipation Day since the 1830s. So, you know, and it wasn't about, you know, because we know in the United States, slavery was still alive and kicking, chattel slavery. But it was this recognition that, you know, one day African people in the United States could win their independence or win their freedom here. So this celebration of Emancipation Day in the West Indies was even recognized here. And it's kind of interesting because it shows even the connection of Africans in the United States with Africans in the West Indies and in other places. So even then, we understood our connection. So fast forward, you have, of course, the Civil War, and then the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation. So let's look at this. In September 22nd, Emancipation Day in Ohio went from August 1st, remembering the recognition of emancipation in the West Indies, it moved to September 22nd because that was the day that Abraham Lincoln gave the South 100 days to emancipate Africans in the South. And then on January the 1st, the Emancipation Proclamation became official. So you have September 22nd, which is looked at as Emancipation Day in Ohio and even in other places. And January the 1st also is looked at as Emancipation Day. And so another day I want to give you is April 16th, which is recognized in DC as Emancipation Day. So Juneteenth isn't the only day that Africans give recognition to the liberation of African people in this country as it is defined by the colonizer. But just to fast forward, because we're going to get into this conversation today. In 1865, the people of Texas did not want to recognize the emancipation of African people, and even after the end of the Civil War. So you had Texans who were still enslaving Africans even after the war was over. And as a matter of fact, you had white people, white slave masters taking Africans during the Civil War into Texas. Thousands of Africans were taken from Mississippi and other states into Texas. And they were considered what they call refugees, maybe getting the term wrong, but refugees were taken into Texas and to be protected from the emancipation of all African people in the United States. And so, that's the interesting history of Texas, right? So then you have, finally, you have the issuance of General Field Order number 3, which the Africans, which gave the Africans, made it official in Texas that African people were free. And so a year later, you had the first Jubilee Day or Emancipation Day. And then in the 1890s, it begins to be recognized as Juneteenth, right? So, we're going to get into the conversation. There's a lot more I have to say about it, but I want to go to a musical selection. And, I just want to appreciate everybody that's here. And I want y'all to also join into this discussion after we finish building. And also today, we would be remiss if, speaking of firecrackers, they busted firecrackers right outside my window. But speaking of, we will be remiss if we didn't speak about Tulsa, Oklahoma too. So be prepared for that conversation as well. So let's go into our musical selection, Uhuru.
I don't even know no more. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But I'm knocking on the unknown door. Cause all that I thought I
Ooh.
knew before ain't enough for what's in store. We're pinned up inside this ancient war. I thought I knew so much, but we can't seem to do enough. I read a book, said it all was in the book. What's really going on? Cause this war gone way too long. Think I'll get a gun and end it where it started from. And end it where it started from. But I don't even know, cause most Most of us wouldn't, and a few of us will. They say it's in the road. We play nice while they stacking up kills. How much we gotta grow before we can learn to defend ourselves? How much we gotta know that we can depend on no one else? I don't even know no more. I'm not knocking on the door, 'cause all that I thought I knew before, it ain't enough for once anymore. We're pinned up inside this ancient war. I thought I knew so much, but we can't seem to do enough. What you gonna do when guns go blam? In the cycle of prolonged lifespan. If you really had enough, then it's time to pick it up. Pull the trigger, make your gun go blam. Now it's time to make your gun go blam. If someone is trying to threaten your fam, if you really had enough, now it's time to pick it up. Pull the trigger, make your gun go blam. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. That's all I know. That's all I know. That's all I know. That's all I know. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. Before I be a slave, buried in my grave. Before I be a slave, buried in my grave.
Uhuru.
Too short.
Yeah.
It's too short.
You can see, I was like, I'm gonna rock out. I said, we listen to this whole thing.
It's too short. But Uhuru, everyone. I am Empress Livewire. Welcome to Uhuru Mindset. Like was mentioned earlier, we're very excited because we're about to be on season 2. So we are hyped. We're just happy, and we just appreciate everyone, and we just appreciate what we're building and what we're doing, and just to see, just to be able to look back at all the footage and see how far we've come. Like even Kyle mentioned, he was like, season 2 already, and it's like, I know, right? Like it, time flew. So we're just really, really excited. So as Prez mentioned, we are going to open up the discussion with talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma, the massacre that occurred, and the 100-year anniversary, just passed, and Biden actually was in Tulsa speaking and actually giving tribute to the genocide that took place. And I found that very interesting and quite frankly very hypocritical for the president of the United States witnessing and even taking place in current day genocide to go and give a tribute to a genocide that took place during the Tulsa massacre. So I want to open up to my comrades to give their thoughts, their initial thoughts and reactions when they saw the president of the United States of Corporation giving tribute to the Tulsa massacre in Tulsa.
Well, I gotta say that, it's interesting to see the narrative change when this country has been trying so long to deny the terrorism that African people have faced in America since we were kidnapped from Africa in the first place. It's I know it probably pained them and hurt them like hell to actually have to go there and start talking about this damn massacre. They've been trying to bury in the history. But it's a big deal when you see the colonial settlers have to say, hey, they have to acknowledge this particular attack, and they're slick about how they do it, but that's my first impression. I'm gonna keep it short there, but that's, it's always something to have to see settler colonizers have to bite their tongue a little bit,
When you said that, I pictured him punching the air as he was getting dressed to go there. As he was tight.
Mm-hmm.
And Prez mentioned them selling those postcards and glorifying the event. He probably has that in his in his safe or his in his gallery. And he probably supported the massacre, but then to go speak on it, I unite that he was probably very upset.
Mm-hmm.
You can't bring up those postcards without us going into that.
I was throwing it to you, Prez. Take it away.
Throwing it to me.
That's all you.
Definitely,
That's all you.
Just to add on
Yes.
to what Fife said, I think like, that shows the power of history. Because what I saw, as a historian, and when I was like studying history, and not just studying history, but studying the study of history, right? And understanding like history is also collective memory. And our collective memory changes over time based off of what we know. And this is why you can see how you have, there was during the centennial back in, I believe, maybe like the early 1900s, you had Native Americans participating in Columbus celebrations and so forth. Then as they learn more and more about the history of Europeans, they're like, hold on, not like Columbus was a colonizer. Columbus was he committed genocide. Spanish committed genocide and so forth, and they respond differently. And so even the colonizers have to change the way that they approach the colonized or the oppressed. And so with this, as more and more people begin to recognize what happened in Tulsa. And it's not that a lot of us didn't know what happened, but more and more people are learning about it, and they're demanding that there's conversations being had around what happened in Tulsa. And so with that being said, Joe Biden, he had to address this because now, more and more African people are becoming aware, and they're uncovering more and more that took place during that. And then there's a call for reparations. And so, with this in their face, which you have survivors who are still around that experience this, people are looking for answers. And this goes into the bigger conversation, even about reparations, right? So, I wanted to raise that. But going back to the souvenirs, what Empress Livewire was speaking about, after Tulsa, first of all, Tulsa, Oklahoma had at that time, I think, a population somewhere around 100,000. 10% of that population was African Americans or Black people, right? Which represented about 10,000 people. So, I think like this context is very important to understand what took place. That section of that is known as Black Wall Street, Negro Wall Street at the time, but that African section was known as Little Africa. And I raised that again, once again, just to show like the connection of Black people in this country who recognized that they were African people, and even the colonizers recognizing Black people as Africans. So, Little Africa was burned down. There was pictures that was taken, and these photos was used as postcards after the massacre, and was being distributed widely to, just like they would do the lynchings of African people.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, widely as souvenirs. So you had white people who had pictures of Africans being lynched, pictures of what took place to Tulsa, the burning buildings and businesses, and passing them around, like glorifying this. So, that's something we have to think about, as we look at the psychology of the people who participated in this. Like where I ain't going to, but I'm gonna leave it there.
No, we give thanks for that, for the background, because we may think because we know these things, and I don't know everything about the Tulsa massacre, but we may think that everyone knows like about what happened. But I know people that were just finding out about the Tulsa massacre this past weekend on the 100-year anniversary, when the articles and all the news media came out that Biden was speaking there as a tribute. So that's very interesting. I had another thought. You were saying something else.
Yeah, but I think it
that's
ties
okay.
into to the whole Juneteenth thing too, as well. And so you had this that took place in 1921, right? And Juneteenth, which was first celebrated in 1866. It was being celebrated in several states throughout the South, and as recognition of the day that African people, at least in Texas, knew that they were free. They were late to the party, but it was like, you know, but that day was recognized in many states. But we have to understand how, you know, the celebration, like the context of the celebration throughout the years, throughout the decades. So you had more and more African people who were celebrating Juneteenth throughout the late during Reconstruction, right up into the 1900s. But was taking place though during these celebrations, and I think it's important for us to understand this too, is during these celebrations, Africans were not coming together. They were having feasts and things like that, right? But it wasn't just about that. They were coming together and they were talking about plans, like they were talking politics. They were talking about our right to vote. You know, like these was the conversations that were being had on Juneteenth. And so, you know, even today, I think like a lot of us don't even recognize how Juneteenth was being, you know, quote unquote celebrated. Right now, I think like today, people think it's a time to like have barbecues and, you know, just have fun and play games.
Well, you know, that's what our people do for holidays.
Well, they were doing it then. They were doing it then, but they weren't just doing that, you know, and that's the point I'm making.
You're right.
Like, you know, they were talking about their voting rights. They were talking about the lynchings and things that were taking place and how they were going to be, how they were going to assert themselves into the political arena here in the United States. And so, but what's going to happen though in the early 1900s is that you have, of course, Jim Crow laws, right? And segregation that's taking place, African American rights to vote being taken away from them, at least African men having their rights to vote taken from them. And so what's happening is you have less celebrations of Juneteenth because now, remember during this time, well, not remember, but I'm gonna tell you, like during this time, you have like a high degree of like nativism, where you know, people was looking at these Juneteenth celebrations as being un-American, unpatriotic. And so you see less and less Black people being involved in that because they're afraid to be seen as un-American and unpatriotic. Also, you have a sector of the African population who is like leveling up, like their upward mobility, you know, as limited as that is happening. And so you have a lot of African Americans who are just like not trying, once again, like these people, they're trying to assimilate into American mainstream society and don't want to be affiliated with something that seems unpatriotic and un-American. But this is going to change in the right before World War II, in the 1950s and the 60s. You see more and more people, this renaissance of Juneteenth that's happening. And so, but you know, I wanted to give.
And we're gonna have part 2, hopefully June 18th, in honor of that weekend, to bring that back and not only make it about the barbecues and just coming together to play games. We're you know, we give thanks for us coming together and doing that. And I wanted to ask you a question because you brought up Little Africa. So I want to ask a question to the panel, but it's time for a word from our sponsors. Do you need your daily dose of revolutionary news? Subscribe to our Burning Spear newspaper at burningspearmarketplace.com. Again, that's burningspearmarketplace.com. It will open up to the shopping page, but you can see the tab at the top and you can click on news or newspaper and you will get your daily dose of revolutionary news. That's burningspearmarketplace.com. Do you have questions about the world and our place in it as African people? Tune in every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern to Omali Taught Me. Our chairman, Omali Yesitela, goes live every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Again, that's 8 a.m. Eastern every Sunday morning on Facebook and YouTube Live. And that is called Omali Taught Me. You learn so much about African internationalism, how to put theory into practice, and just so much wisdom and so many gems on those teachings every Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. One Africa, One Nation Marketplace is taking place again. It's happening June 12th, a Saturday in Philly at Clark Park on 43rd and Chester. Again, this is taking place in Philly at Clark Park. The City of Brotherly Love is hosting a One Africa, One Nation marketplace, and that will be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, that is on 43rd and Chester. We are having a Juneteenth rally, and when I say we, none other than MP Dunn, the New York branch, we are having a Juneteenth rally on Pickens and Rockaway in Brooklyn, New York. We are having this, of course, on June 19th from 12 to 3. We will be organizing, putting a line out, and giving away clothing, food, and books to the community. So please join us. It'll be a wonderful thing to take a part in. Invite your friends and family to come celebrate with us, put the line out, and also talk about how we're moving forward and organizing as a people. Then directly after that, after we talk politics and we organize with our community, we are heading over to Lincoln Terrace Park in Brooklyn, New York, to Abundance in Ujama, AIU. They are hosting a Juneteenth Family Day barbecue cookout. We'll have games for kids. We'll have dance class. We'll have double dutch. We'll have all classic games that you'll see at a typical adult game night. But we're bringing it to a family day in Lincoln Terrace Park. We're going to also have plant-based options. So we're going to have plant-based burgers, hot dogs, plant-based meals. I'm not going to say the whole menu. You got to come to see the whole menu, but we are going to have plant-based options, electric foods. So that's going to be exciting. It's going to be a family affair, family reunion in honor of Juneteenth. So make sure you come through and celebrate and share energy with us. That's going to be so much fun. If you would like to become a member, make sure you visit mpdom.org and get your annual and sustaining membership today. Do not delay. You should become a member because we're pushing the work forward. We're putting theory to practice, and we are organizing with our people to become self-determining people. So become a member by visiting www.npdum.org. And if you care, you should donate. Hit the Cash App and the PayPal. You can donate by entering nyc.mpdum@gmail.com. That's the email that you would enter on your Cash App and your PayPal apps to donate to us. A little goes a long way. Every organization that's organizing with the community, it takes resources to push the work forward. So we do appreciate anything that is given. Any love donations are welcome. So we give thanks. Uhuru. So those have been the announcements. So I'm excited to get back to my question. So you mentioned Little Africa. So well, this is for the entire panel. Where are we building Little Africa today? Is there Little Africa right now? Like Church Avenue, Church in Utica, is that Little Africa? Or like in Harlem where you see the little African shops and the cultural places, is that Little Africa? Like where are we building Little Africa today? Hi, beautiful.
Hi, how you doing? Hi, Empress. Hey.
Uhuru whisper.
Uhuru. Can I answer that?
You're gonna answer the question? Of course.
Okay, so I feel like that's a trick question because the real question is, where are we being unbuilt? See, because we've been built up several different places. So before, Metro Tech came over, downtown Brooklyn came second to Wall Street in terms of making money. And all of the shops, were, most of them were our shops and like sold our merchandise. We supported it. But a little bit behind like downtown, all on Fulton is all of the wholesalers where you get like, like the black seed oils and all your incense. That's what everything is. So it's like, we're on Canal Street. I mean, not Canal Street, but like in Manhattan, where there's the wholesalers where people get all those cute little Chinese toys and all those blow up stuff. You come to Brooklyn to get your incense and all the Muslim stuff or your supplies. So that area for the longest time until this is what attracted Metro Tech, you could say was kind of a little Africa. We have Flatbush. Yeah, on Fulton, a little bit over is on Fulton. We're all through there. But all of these areas are being regentrified. So you can no longer actually think of it as like a little Africa anymore because even look what's happening to Harlem. So Harlem isn't even Harlem. So what are we doing? So that's why I feel like it's kind of like a trick question. But throughout the city, at least I can speak for NYC, we have our cute little spots. And they're just slowly being taken over, or not even slowly. It's just like a disease. It's like a parasite. So it's happening all over the place. But if I had to pick one spot, it was downtown Brooklyn. In terms of money,
Interesting.
yes, because it came second to that was very interesting. Fact, I learned that as a teenager, that our space came second to Wall Street.
Yeah, that,
Thank you, Whisper.
That's interesting that you say that, because right now there's like this whole big revitalization plan that they have happening at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and there's huge amounts of resources being plugged in there. I think even not so long ago, the mayor was talking about bringing back streetcars just to service that particular corridor of business, and we're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about, gentrification, which is genocide that we understand. But it's what Whisper said was interesting. Where's the next little Africa? Like, we have continent, we have an Africa, right? What's the need for little Africas, right? Same reason why there's little Chinatowns everywhere where Chinese people are. You have to, every group of people establishes themselves wherever they are in the world. And African people should be able to do that without being called un-American or whatever it is called, the other, whatever, because all of that type of talk is to galvanize the other settler colonizers to attack anybody that's the other or the outside, But the strange dichotomy here in terms of little Africas and building Africa is like, when we have a free Africa, a free African nation, we're gonna have little Africas everywhere,
Everywhere.
And that's what we really need. I mean, and that's the safety and security we're gonna need, so that in our movement we have a saying: touch one, touch all. If you touch one of us, you touch all of us. So if they touch an African, anywhere in the world, and everything ties back to the nation. So we're going to be able to defend ourselves. So it won't be a situation where we're working decades at a time and don't know that, the construct.
You're breaking up a little bit, comrade. I don't know if it's
society has changed so much that we can change to before, or be in a situation better now. Comrade, let me check my thing.
Yeah,
is this any better? You can hear me?
It's better.
But I'm just saying that, being in situations where, like in Juneteenth, where African people are working in a situation and they didn't realize anything has changed within decades, and that whole time their labor is being stolen from them, or a situation in Tulsa where African people come out of being enslaved, build themselves up, pull themselves up out of bootstraps, as they like to say in this country, and establish themselves, only to be destroyed by the same U.S. government that was dependent upon them, So, again, comrade, in order of us to have little Africas, real little Africas, and not just have Nigerian flags and South Africa flags, but we want to have red, black, and green flags up. You know what I'm saying?
Those colors, that flag gives me chills. Even you mentioning it, I'm excited. Okay, so that takes me straight into the next question. And this is for everyone to answer, not just Fights, but he brought up when we are free. So are we free in the United States? That's kind of a trick question. And how are we measuring freedom? Anyone can take it.
Great questions.
Okay, so first off, I think the second question is really good because that kind of answers the first. Like, depending upon what your measure is, then we could determine how free we are. So the truth of the matter is, even besides being copper colored, like throughout the world, it's like locked down. So it's like everybody's fighting for freedom in one way or another because the corporate beast is overtaking everyone, right? And then within that, there are certain privileges where some people experience a better life than others. But that's an honest question. It's like, what is the measure of freedom? Because if we looked at elitism, or the freedom to just do anything, like you to have a certain amount of money or whatever, well, that's going to be like 1% or less than 1%. But in terms of the freedom to just like live every day and to be measured, as the same, on the same table as everyone else, well, that doesn't exist for us because at the end of the day, there's a black hex code. So there's a suffrage, someone has to be sacrificed for everyone else to eat. And there has to be some sort of agreement worldwide amongst people in order to allow, well, you know what, we want some more of the pie, because we realize that you have all that, and that there's an oligarch, and you know what, we'll offer up these, we'll have a caste system, and within the caste system we'll offer up the untouchables, the darkest people on the planet, so everywhere you go, it doesn't matter, about where you fall on the scale. It's really about how many other people are included on that, because I mean that whole thing about like light skin, dark skin, if you're light skin in a sea of just albino, you're the darkie. So I'm just saying, and so now, so that's just that's just this reality in terms of just generally speaking. And so now then you have to move past that, past that illusion into, like free within yourself, because at the end of the day, only you can set yourself free, because at the end of the day, even with this whole COVID thing, every day I forget that people are wearing masks because I'm not masking. At the end of the day, I need to breathe, and I like my face. I don't muzzle up. I have a big mouth and I don't muzzle up. So that's number one. So number two, no matter what other people think or see of me, I see myself. And at the end of the day, whatever you thought in the beginning, by the time I'm through, guess what? I'm going to break through that illusion. You're going to see me for who I am, and you're going to bow down to my divinity. I'm not playing. So that's
Whisper.
so that's the other, that's the other aspect of it. But when we speak generally speaking, and if we use, like what you said, what is the measure? So when we use that table in terms of that American pie, or, the dream that is sold, or this pull yourself up your bootstraps, and if you just put in your hard work, you can have your white picket fence too. That's an illusion, because it's literally into the code. It's coded in. So like the minute that you say, hey, you identify as black, in the computers, it's 0.666. Your value goes down, So when I changed my status and I stood up here, and not even change it, because you get to identify what your worth is. So when I let you know what my worth is, it goes up. A woman did her house, right? She paid like what, 150,000. A couple of years later, she wanted to see how much it was worth. She wanted to buy her grandma's house, and she expected to be like about 180,000. She went to get her to see what was the value under one lender. They noted her as black. It was 125,000. She said, no, that can't be right. She did it again. It went down to 119,000. Now this time she changed the game, borrowed her girlfriend, her friend's husband, who was Caucasian, or non-melanin or non-carbonite, and sure enough, by the time she was done, or leper, leper supremacy, by the time she was done, it went up to 289,000, and that's on YouTube. Interesting.
Right, interesting.
Yeah, I had saw that story, and I want to go back. There's a few things that was covered. I'm trying to be as brief as possible. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. But going back to like Black Wall Street, right? And I want to tie this into the question about measuring freedom, Juneteenth. It all connects, and that's why I thought it was important to even talk about what happened in Tulsa, because you have a group of people, African people in this country, who quote unquote supposed to have been emancipated and granted citizenship, paying their taxes, but being treated as second-class citizens. So, Malcolm X said there's no such thing as a second-class citizen. You're either free or you enslaved. But they want us to think that we're, free, by calling us second-class citizens. So, we got to let that sink in. And even today, just to talk about minority and so forth, all of these categories we're being placed in when we're all supposed to be American, right? So when you have this separation, it shows, okay, there's different groups that's being recognized. Now, what is the political and economic or social status of these different groups within the country? And so when you start doing the science on that, seeing where the wealth is, who controls the resources, who's controlling the politics, and who is responding to this, then you have a understanding of like the freedom or the lack of freedom that you had. And so, with that being said, it's like what happened. We had hundreds of Black Wall Streets. It wasn't just one. We had, there was many little Africas. And so going back to what Whisper said, as far as just like the destruction of these places, we had it, but they were destroyed, or the people were so marginalized that they couldn't maintain because of just brain drains. I guess like the dynamic, we can't just, it's not black and white. But the point being though is that because living in a country where you're not granted the same liberties as another group of people, but you're still, paying the taxes, and on the books it says that you're a citizen. You can't say that group of people are free. If they were free, you wouldn't have needed the civil rights movement. If they were free, you wouldn't even have movements that we have now, where people are still fighting for equality and rights within this country. So I think that's important. But the last thing I want to say is, like, when you understand colonialism and what colonialism is, then you'll have the answer to that question you asked as far as if we're free or not. You can't be a colonized people. And I believe that African people, at least in our movement, we believe that African people are colonized within the state borders of the United States. And so just one more point though, like in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in 1953, you had a bus boycott. This predated the bus boycott of Montgomery, which was in 1955. So in 1953, you had this bus boycott, and part of the reason that there was a bus boycott is because you had somewhere close to maybe like 100, Black-owned bus companies. You can look this up. It was a large number of bus companies that had their licenses revoked by the state, and where, because of the competitiveness, where this white controlled bus company wasn't getting resources because all the Black people was riding the Black buses, right? And so they were forced to ride the white controlled bus, and then of course there were segregated buses at that. And so they fought to break down the segregation of these buses, which I'm not going to get into what they won because it wasn't a real victory, but they never brought back any of these other bus companies that had their licenses revoked. And I bring that up to say, like, that goes to show how free African people are in the United States of America, where we can't even develop. There's a history of us not being able to develop our own businesses and compete on the same level as white folks. And so no matter what we're granted today, I think that the separation is so wide now that it'll take hundreds, centuries, a few centuries before we're even able to catch up if we still play their game. So, I'm gonna leave it there, Uhuru.
Uhuru, that it's so much. It's so much. If we commented on everything, we'll be here for 2 hours. No, it's fine. Whisper added so much to the conversation. I can't even go back to everything that was said. So, yeah, it's so much.
I appreciate what Prez just broke down right there. We have a history. Like a lot of the country. Like, let's just narrow the conversation down and keep it in house, right? We're talking amongst ourselves, amongst Black people. We're not clear on our own identity. You know what I mean? We're not even clear on that, for one. And then we're not clear on the actual state of our relationship to the white ruling class, the rulers of this particular country, the rulers of the corporations coming out of this country. Who's at the head of the institutions, the economic institutions, the educational institutions, and you go down the whole line. You know what I mean? Like, they put Black people in places of power as a token. Where that doesn't even represent who is sitting on these boardrooms, who's sitting on these seats in these boardrooms, who's making these policies that are being carried out into the entire world. And amongst ourselves, if we're all speaking amongst ourselves, we have to be clear on our identity, what should be our self-interest, and who's going to be going against our self-interest, where that resistance is going to come from. And these are things that need to be made clear. And there's a lot of African people that, you know, I hear in conversations say that you can't make it in America if you don't have a white friend or you don't have some kind of relationship to white people. You know, you can't make it in America. You can't be rich. You can't live a fulfilling life in America. And you have our people inside America, African people, Black people, trying to achieve some sort of better life for themselves and their families, and doing things that are not, you know, beneficial to our people. Just like everyone is clear when it comes to street organizations, when it comes to things that are happening off the books, we're clear that is negative behavior, right? That we could look at that and say, hey, that's a problem right there, you know. But if the what's causing us harm is dressed a certain kind of way, if it speaks a certain kind of way, and if it exemplifies or resembles the colonizer, then it must be okay. Hey, we just doing our job, or whatever the excuses people that look like us make when they're actually carrying out the interests of the colonizers, you know. And these are hard conversations for us to have. But how else do we break out of the colonial mindset than to shed it and get an Uhuru mindset? You know, how else?
Uhuru.
Uhuru. I just want to real quick piggyback off of Akimba. You brought up so many interesting points, because the truth of the matter is, like what we're experiencing today is different than, you know, all of the trauma and the shocking and the breaking that we've experienced to be where we are right now. Most of us, or even especially our youth, they have no clue or no idea, no connection to their own history and what this is. So it's like, even now, like I saw on YouTube how they're trying to pass all these regulations so that there's no talk of race, and we can't, no, the little crumbs that we did get for Black History Month, that was like maybe a week, you're not even gonna get that. So it's like, if you completely get rid of this, right? Now you have no connection, right? And you have no measure, no marker. So like the slavery becomes even steeper. So it's like, it's okay now for us to walk around. We don't need to be beaten. We don't need to be whipped. You know, we have this general acceptance of, okay, let's eggshell around, you know, because ACS and, you know, a cop over here, because somebody's going to use their power to, you know, try to make us hush up because I walk too proud, or they don't like the way I look because I'm wearing the wrong color clothes, because it's actually to my history, and not saying, and not, you know, the reshaped image of what we're supposed to be now, right? So it's like, if you wear the heel finger, if you wear the whatever, okay, that's the mindset we want you to be, because you're giving us our money. But when you sit up here and you start to fund yourself, and you start to develop your own things, like the Tulsa, like the Rose, you know, your own towns, and what, Okai or OCEE, I was looking on that on YouTube, and I found out about that massacre, and it's just like, wow, you know, and it's the fact
in Florida, right?
Yes, in Florida. And then also, in Florida, I forgot his name, but like a man, Hewley Grant or something, where like they had like 111 acres of farmland, and somebody else did something, and they just came to him and just go. I want to see. And they just came to him and yeah, I know, it's just like the park is that way, but they came to him and they just took the man, killed him. Like, he didn't have nothing to do with it, but it was just an excuse, because you know what? He owned 111 acres of farmland. They had spent their money well. There was a good, upstanding family. Like, nothing. Like didn't even, just because they were there. So at the end of the day, it's like, right now, as long as you're walking around and you have those fresh Nikes on and all these other things, you're good. Because at the end of the day, you know, the slavery is not here anymore. The slavery is here. But as soon as you start to take your new weapon, right, that piece of pen, and you start to do things for yourself, because other people get to experience that. They have their own schools, they have their own security. They don't have police in their neighborhoods. You know, they hide under a religion, but anyone can be a religion. You can't, a group of people can't be a religion. So at the end of the day, you know, there are people that are taking the grace and of others, of the elders, of us, taking our grace and walking around with it and creating their own little communities and their own things. But the minute we start to do it ourselves, exactly what you said about being defunded, about them attacking your companies, taking over the black farms and all these other things. Like even now, we're in a worldwide reset. Why? Because how many of these African companies started kicking out colonizers? How many people started reclaiming the land? How many people started realizing that how indigenous we are to the land, instead of us being classified, letting someone else classify us, and then taking responsibility for it ourselves. So it's like, so is a truth to, like, even when you apply yourself, we're not going to truly be free until we have that unity behind it. And that's the hardest part, because we're not even fighting so much the colonizers, we're fighting the colonized mind, which is why we do need an Uhuru mindset.
That was dope. Drop the mic, Whisper. That was dope. So in honor of the time, and just to be just respectful of everyone's time, we are going to close it out. But this was an amazing discussion. It just goes to speak to more to why we need a part 2 on June 18th. And Juneteenth needs to be a revolutionary act, not just a day where we have fun and have barbecues. It needs to be revolutionary, and we all need to join a revolutionary organization to become self-determining people and do the work and push it forward. But we're gonna close it out, so we're gonna go to Feist, and we'll open up the I was gonna say the phone line. So we're gonna open up the panel discussion for anyone who has any questions or comments. We're gonna open it up so you can unmute yourself and come on to the panel. So Feist, the floor is yours. If no one else has anything to add, of course. Uhuru.
I was about to go home when Westbrook dropped this. I thought she did the summation right there, so I was about to pack it up.
I felt that too.
I was like, look, the job's done. She already, she ended it with the, Uhuru comrades. I want to, again, thank all of you comrades for helping to make this program happen like it does every single week. President Ikemba, Comrade Empress Livewire, and Comrade Whisper and Win. I want to salute our chairman, the chairman of the African Revolution, Chairman Amada Yeshatella. He founded the African People's Socialist Party, which is the mother organization of the Uhuru movement. And we in NPDOM, we're the mass organization of, we're called the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, Uhuru. I want to salute our president, Kalambayi Andanette, in St. Louis, Missouri, who's, president of the international organization that we are. I want to thank everybody in the chat, everybody tuning in. I want to thank everybody for getting down for this episode of Uhuru Mindset. We took great care, to pay attention to this particular timing of Juneteenth. Our president Ikemba, who's like, our producer of the show, the title of this, episode is Juneteenth. What does it mean to Black people in America? What does Juneteenth mean to Black people in America? And one thing, that a lot of us struggle with is the citizenship question. There is a number of Black people in America who have decided that, they've decided that they are now American descendants of slavery, something to that effect. And there's other different, connotations like foundational Black Americans and things of that nature, right? And what is missing from these particular theories, what's missing from these particular ideologies is what they're doing is pretty much uniting with the settler colonizers who massacred the indigenous people that was here on this land and wiped it out. What they've done is thrown their lot in with the settler colonizers. And in our organization, we're saying that we'll never unite with the settler colonizers. We're never going to claim to be any part of them. We're not going to work to integrate into a system that has a parasitic relationship to us. That's the major separation with our organization and many others. And a lot of times when we always used to say Uhuru, and Uhuru means freedom, and we say we're not free, even before I understood what Juneteenth was, even coming into organization. And people be like, I'm free to do to go to what school I want to, or I'm free to do X, Y, and Z, freedom in terms of what they can obtain with some kind of monetary resources they may have. But I live in a particular generation, and the reality that has informed me that I know African people who have lots of credentials, degrees, and things of that nature, and they try to go move into particular neighborhoods, and they're pretty much told straight out, this community, we're trying to keep it a certain kind of way with a wink and a nod. You get our children going through these school systems, right? And there's children are children, things happen and trouble happens and things of that nature, but you see a lot of our young African people being pushed into the prison systems. All you see is a situation where the state will come into the home and take children out of their own damn homes. You know what I mean? That is the state. That is the nation that we're trying to claim that we are a part of by saying that we're Americans. You understand? So when you understand colonialism and you understand what Juneteenth is, you'll not be in contention with the colonizer. We will not be trying to take the place of the settler colonizer. We be working to get rid of the settler colonizer. We be working to build our own dueling and contending power, just like we did in Black Wall Street, just like we did in many places where African people work. We had to organize ourselves and economically pull ourselves together because we had no choice. Due to segregation, Jim Crows, and all this other stuff, we were kept out of situations to be able to have a decent lives in this country, on this continent. And the only way we ever got anything in this country, African brothers and sisters, is that we fought and organized for it. And as much as we like to talk about Black Wall Street, we always got to talk about what was not done to defend Black Wall Street. I mean, and not it was just people coming on after the fact, after there's a catastrophe, but knowing that we need to have political power. Political power is a thing that's gonna really bring us to actually living real lives, comrades, supporters, the rest of it. We that's the only way that we change these contradictions. And it doesn't matter how many token Negroes they put up in front of us, how many Obamas there are, how many Michelles or Kamala Harris's, or the rest of it, because you know what? Flint still doesn't have clean water. You know what I'm saying? And many of the institutions in our own communities, there's still no money for the programs that we need. That's why we're organizing to build those programs ourselves. Go to npdom.org, check us out. Look at the Burning Spear newspaper, check us out. Learn what it actually takes physically. Besides watching this show, what's the next step in breaking out of the colonial mindset and breaking into the Uhuru mindset? We're saying reparations are due to African people for the Tulsa massacre and for all the colonial violence that African people have faced in this country. We want indigenous people in this country to get their damn land back. It ain't our land to be given in the damn first place. You know what I mean? People like to speak for indigenous people, how we will just do this, that, and the third, or a certain amount of states. No, this whole land is stolen, and we can't take any part in stealing land. Even though that's one of the most American. There's nothing more American than stealing land, right? But I'm laughing, but it's extremely serious. And it's not to say that there's holidays all around the year that we celebrate, that our people prepare for a long time, all year round for. And we're saying that if we're gonna be doing holidays and celebrations, let's celebrate the death of colonial settlerism. Let's celebrate the death of the colonial mindset, comrades. Uhuru mindset.
Uhuru. Uhuru, guys. I love it.
Indeed. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're back here at the same time next week at 8 p.m. And so I just want to appreciate everybody for tuning in to another hour of Black Power. And until next time, stay in the Uhuru state of mind. Uhuru.
This is Uhuru Mindset. This is our program. And we appreciate everyone for tuning in and, joining this discussion. We're going to continue to have these discussions. We're going to continue to engage with the community and create Uhuru mindsets wherever you are. So continue to tune into our program. Uhuru.